Uh, Good day, friends. Um, Breaking news. Uh, the final and the eighth leader of the Soviet Union has passed away. Um, and this He died at the age of 91. Um, if I continue, please like, subscribe, and share. The leader of the Soviet Union, the eighth and final leader of the Soviet Union is Mikhail Gorbachev. Um, He ruled the Soviet Union between the 1985 to 1991. And what kind of legacy does he leave behind now that he has passed? And all this connection with the Russian war in Ukraine. Gorbachev is credited especially by Western nation because he facilitated the dissolution of the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union had become uncontainable by the time Gorbachev was taking over the reins of power. And we can remember that there was a big emphasis trying to restructure how the things were managed in the Soviet Union, especially when the issue of the Chernobyl happened, and there was there were such a big cover up from his lieutenants and people who were below him. They tried to cover up the issue, and it was just messy. So this confirmed to Mikhail Gorbachev that he needed to make drastic changes in how the USSR was governed as a government and as an organization. And so he proposed prest, prest, perestroika and glasnost kind of policy. The prostoika, uh, pres, perestroika, sorry, pronouncing is a bit hard. The perestroika kind of policy was uh, he would emphasize economic reforms in terms of he would allow the USSR to be more of an open economy and not to be a central kind of economy, probably follow more of like the Western model, and also allow Western companies and organizations to invest in the USSR. The Glasnost kind of system was he would now allow open critic of the government, people to criticize it, information to be disseminated freely, and people to have different political views. We must remember that at that time the USSR was a communist state, so different views were not allowed. The economic structure of the USSR was a single unit. The state owned everything. The state provided all the resources. But all this, by the time Gorbachev was taking the reins of power, all these had built up into a very big issue, and there was need for this change. So Gorbachev was not a strong man, like Putin, and that's why sometimes he's also blamed because he didn't have that vigor to hold the USSR together. He had a very good vision with his perestroika and glasnost policy, but he did not have that element of holding the USSR together so that it couldn't break away. You must remember it broke down to 15 Soviet republic, and Vladimir Putin is on record saying it is the largest biggest geopolitical crisis of the century, the breakaway of the Soviet Union, because it left Russians exposed. When the Soviet Union broke, some Russians were so far away from their border, exposed to violence, and Russia as a country faced political, social, and economic catastrophe. So when you look on the Western side, is really credited. You must remember that during that time, nuclear war, nuclear threat was just a minute away. There were high tensions. Gorbachev tried to be more diplomatic in, trying to move the Cold War into a more a war which could be solved through diplomatic, and the two powers could coexist together. We must remember that even when the Soviet Republic broke away, the Leninist and the Marxist administration fell, and Gorbachev really limited himself into using force in trying to hold the republics together, and he just let every republic to govern itself, and it didn't seem to push through force. uh, to keep them together. Even Reagan is on record, at the Berlin Wall saying that Gorbachev brought this wall down, the reunification of the West and the East Germany. On the Western side, Gorbachev is seen as a hero. He went on to even receive um, the Nobel Peace Prize, many awards. He did many lectures, he wrote many books. He visited America. He even visited Ronald Reagan Ranch. He when he was there, he also raised money for his charity. So he was seen as a very good ally of the Western side and the Western civilization. But when it comes to, his home in Russia, he was seen as a very weak person. He wasn't given that accolade that that he was given in the Western side. He was still treated as a very important person in Russia, but he was still blamed for the catastrophe that happened. After the fall of the Soviet Union, Yeltsin took over, and Gorbachev tried to make a comeback in politics. When you look at the 1996 election in Russia, when he tried to run as president, there was so many roadblocks for him even to be named as one of the running candidates, because the candidates were 10. Because there was still that issue of Gorbachev running, and is the one who has put us in this turmoil. So he ran, and out of 70 million people who voted, he only got 350,000 votes. So that was a clear indication that the people of Russia had moved on. They were looking to new order. Yeltsin was elected again. And in the year 2000, when he had his own party even when he was running the 1997 election under a democratic party, a Russian Democratic Party, where he was now trying to forge a new Russia, where to promote democracy in Russia. In the year 2000, he lost all the seats of the House, the Duma, where the Russian parliament, he lost. His party didn't even pick one seat. And this was another clear indication that his political life was coming to an end. By the time the year 2004 reached, his party was finally dissolved and it was over. Yeltsin hung his political career boots and went to retirement, continuing with his lectures and talks. Inside Russia, Yeltsin was seen as, as he was blamed for most of the things, especially, the encroachment of the European Union into the former Soviet Republic. He's also blamed for enabling NATO to come to Russian borders, to the Soviet Republic. Yeltsin is on record, not Yeltsin, Gorbachev is on record saying that, that he was promised by, he was promised by the American administration that not a single inch of not a single inch of NATO would come to Russian sphere of influence. But Putin was also on record saying that Gorbachev should have known, he's an established politician, an established diplomat. He should have known that this agreement are not said by word of mouth. They are signed on paper and deals are made. So if someone tell you by word of mouth who will do this, you can't take it to the heart. So Putin never seemed to like his policies, and Putin somehow also blames Gorbachev of the issue. And but when Gorbachev, since 2014, in the late 10 years that before his death, he has been trying to blame the West also for forcing Russia's hand, for forcing Russia to be the way it is. And you can see that, how Gorbachev thought during the 1990s is very different from the new administration in Russia, because you see Putin seems to be in a kind of an ambitious spree where he sees, Russia should regain its former glory. We must remember that when the USSR collapsed, Putin was in East Germany. He was one of the Russian citizens who found themselves, at the outskirt or far away from Mother Russia, vulnerable to threats, of fearing for their lives, and he didn't like it. So he feels that the empire should come back, the mighty of Russia. So it's very interesting that Gorbachev has died in a point where, and the legacy which is known with is the dismantling of the Soviet Union. By the time he's passing by is when there is some kind of ambition for the mighty Soviet Union to regain its glory back, and it's very interesting that to see how even how his burial is going to go around in Russia, how the Russians are going to endow him through the burial, and how they are going to write his legacy. Will it be a good legacy? But when you look on the Western side, is heavily credited. Margaret Thatcher even was, she felt she could work with Gorbachev. And Margaret Thatcher, when Gorbachev visited in United Kingdom in 1984, he wasn't the Secretary General of uh, of the USSR, uh, but he became a year later. But Margaret Thatcher had a feeling that this guy, how he was thinking, how he was doing his thing, he was on his way to become a big man. So Margaret Thatcher created that relationship early on, and we can see even during the Cold War, Margaret Thatcher, Reagan, and Gorbachev were always in communication, uh, talking to each other, understanding with each other. Gorbachev, no less, is a well-respected statesman globally, very known. You cannot you cannot. It's not hard to distinguish him. He has a very significant birthmark on his face. He's in the history books. Being the last leader of the USSR, I don't think it will be easy to tow away or even write a paragraph about his role in the geopolitical system. I think he needs a whole book. Through his retirement, he wrote various books. Yeah, he tried singing. He traveled around the world, and he focused on climate change, raising charity for orphans, children, and etc. He dies at the age of 92 in 91. Sorry, he passed away in Russia. His wife passed. His wife passed around 15 years ago. She was diagnosed with leukemia, in a rare condition of leukemia. So Gorbachev has been alone, living with his daughters and grandchildren, and we'll wait to see how it goes. Um, anyway, guys, thank you, and see you next time. Cheers.